And let me see if I can find the Panami Mantra. And let's see. I forgot I should have put it here before. Okay. I don't think I'll find it. I have to do a lot of work to get it here. So does anybody remember it and you can do it?
Yeah, Prabhuji, we can do.
Okay, go ahead. Anyone?
I can do.
Sure.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैतो गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। बोलो श्री श्री ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। बोलो गॉड निताई जी की जय।
जय। वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Jai. So it's been 3 weeks.
Krishna Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Bol. Happy New Year. कैसे?
Happy New Year. ठीक है, आप सुना?
बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया. So we are meeting after 3 weeks.
Yes.
So sorry about that, but there are certain obligations that I guess one has to also finish, so that caused this gap. So does anybody remember what we discussed 3 weeks ago? It was last year.
It's a long time.
Long time. So this is why I wanted to make sure that we have some recollection. So basically, anybody remember what's going on last few weeks?
11th Canto.
Yes, 11th Canto, but what's going on there? Who's talking to whom?
Discussion between Uddhava and like Uddhava was asking Prabhuji how to get.
Who's asking Lord Krishna? Yes.
Yeah, Lord Krishna.
Yes, exactly. So there's a lot of things going on. And last week we talked about Krishna's opulence. We talked about the various types of mystic perfections, Ashtasiddhis, they call them. So now we continue from there. And for those of you who want to know, we are on chapter 17. That's where we're starting today. And in this chapter, Lord Krishna is describing, is describing Varnashram system. Before I go on, what's the sound like? Is sound okay? The quality of sound?
Yes.
Very much clear.
Sorry?
Perfect.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good. I'm using a new microphone today, so just wanted to make sure. Okay, all right. So now Uddhava is asking the Lord to explain how all human beings can achieve loving service unto Him. So how do we develop this loving devotional attitude and loving feelings for Him by the execution of our prescribed duties, and how should such service be rendered to the Lord? What's the process? What's the method to do that? So Lord Krishna talked about 4 ages because it's different system in different ages, as you know. So he started to describe, let me just, hold on. Let me just mute everyone. Okay. All right. less noise that way. Yeah. So everyone knows what the 4 ages are, right? The 4 yugas. Anybody wants to help me? What are the 4 yugas?
Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. And we are in Kali Yuga right now. So the Lord starts with description of Satya Yuga. And he said, one thing about Satya Yuga is that there's no influence of the lower modes of nature. What are the lower modes of nature? Anybody?
Mode of ignorance and mode of passion.
Correct. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. So those are the 2 lower modes, and the upper mode or highest mode is the mode of goodness. So he's saying that there is no influence of mode of passion or ignorance in Satya. And therefore, excuse me, all human beings belong to the highest social order called Hansa. So basically what he's saying is there is no Varnashram. I'm sorry, there's no Varna in Satyug, and everybody's called Hansa. And in this age, everyone comes under the direct supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, automatically, everyone is dedicated to pure devotional service right from their birth. So Prabhupada explains that in the modern age, like in Kali Yuga especially, people are crying out for social equality. But, and we hear all these things going on in India, especially with, Harijan and the scheduled castes and backwards class and other backwards class, and all those kind of things. And everybody wants equality. But Prabhupada explains that unless all human beings are situated in the mode of goodness, which is basically the position of purity and unalloyed devotion, social equality is just not possible. It just won't happen because of this lower modes of material nature. And as the lower modes, the passion and ignorance, become prominent, what you call secondary religious principles arise, by which people may gradually be elevated to pure stage of unalloyed devotional service and therefore surrender to the Lord. Because in Satyug there are no inferior human beings, there's no need for secondary religious principles or other social orders. Everyone automatically and directly takes to the unalloyed service of the Lord. And thus they fulfill perfectly all religious obligations. The Vedas are then manifested in the form of the sacred syllable Om. And the Supreme Lord is perceived within the mind in the form of bull with 4 legs, bull representing religion. Who remembers what are the 4 legs of the bull? Anybody remembers? Dharma.
Austerity,
Yes.
cleanliness,
Cleanliness. Yes.
truthfulness,
Yes.
and 4th one is mercy.
Mercy.
No,
Yes, Mother.
mercy.
Thank you. Yeah, mercy. That's great. Thank you so much. So, bull has all his 4 legs intact and strong. What that means is that there's 100% truth, cleanliness, mercifulness, and honesty in the age of Satyug. And there was no formalized process of sacrifice in Satyug. And people are sinless who are naturally inclined to those 4 legs, especially austerity, and they're simply engaged in the meditation on the personal form of the Lord. Excuse me. So we know, this basically explaining that in Satyug, the recommended process of devotional service is meditation. Krito Dhyayate Vishnu, from 12th Canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And because in this age, everyone is perfect in all respects, the age is also known as Krita Yuga. Krita means a person is perfectly fulfilling all their duties. So that's what is described for Satyug. Then, as Prabhuji was mentioning before, Satyug is followed by Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, from the heart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the three Vedas become manifest. And from those three Vedas come three forms of sacrificial fire.
Yep.
And so basically, one leg of the religion, or the bull representing religion, is lost. Who would like to tell me which leg is lost? Anybody?
Truthfulness.
Austerity.
No, austerity. Yes, no. Austerity is gone. And so therefore, only 3 out of the 4, 75% of the religious principles are remaining in Treta Yuga. At least that's what is manifested. And they are represented, as I said, by 3 principal Vedas: Rig Veda, Sam Veda, and Yajur Veda. And the Lord appears as Yajna Purush in the process of these threefold Vedic sacrifices. The threefold divisions of the fire sacrifices process is: one is called Hota priest, who offers oblations into the fire by chanting the hymns from Rig Veda. This Udgata priest, who chants hymns from Sam Veda. And then you have Advaryu priest, who basically arranges the sacrificial ground, the altar, etc. And he chants the hymns from Yajur Veda. So what is the, I think you can guess by now, what's the recommended process for devotional service is in Treta Yuga? Anyone?
Fire sacrifices.
Fire sacrifices, yes, Prabhu. So to go back to the same verse from 12th Canto, Krito Dhyayate Vishnu, Tretayam Yagyai Makhay. So in Treta Yuga, the authorized process is the performance of fire sacrifices. As we know, Lord Ramchandra performed fire sacrifice for 13,000 years. At the time, in Treta Yuga, the 4 Varnas, which are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the 4 ashrams. What are they? Anyone?
Brahmacharya,
Mhm.
Grihastha,
Mhm.
Vanaprastha, and
Mhm.
Sannyas.
Thank you. So those 4 ashrams. Basically, Varnashram prescribes material and spiritual duties of the different members of the society. You know, whether they are in Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or Sannyas, Vanaprastha, Grihastha, Brahmacharya. Any combination of those 8 things, everybody belongs, well, not everybody, but most people belong to one of those. And they appear from the bodily limbs of the Lord. And I'll explain that in a second. So the 4 Varnas and the 4 ashrams, they appear symbolically, obviously, from the bodily limbs of the Lord. According to how the social divisions take birth from higher and lower features of the Lord's body, they are endowed with higher or lower qualities. So let me elaborate on that. So from the face of the Lord appear the Brahmins. From the arms of the Lord appear Kshatriyas. From the thighs of the Lord appear Vaishyas. And from the legs of the Lord appear Shudra. Similarly, the sannyasis appear from the head of the Lord. Vanprasthas manifest from the chest of the Lord. Grihastha from the loins of the Lord, and brahmacharis from the heart of the Lord. So 8 different spots or limbs or parts of the Lord's body, these 8 varnashrams are manifest. So Krishna described all that in detail. And then he explained that the nature of the persons in each of the 4 varnas is different, and he describes in detail what those are. And then he also describes the nature of those people who don't belong to any of these 4 varnas. So, and basically he's talking about, qualities that pertain to the humanities, the human beings. So he describes the qualities of the Brahmins, which is very similar to what's described in chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, text 42. Shamodama tapascha, shanti marjavam evcha, jnanam vijnanam astekyam, brahmakam subhavjam. So he says, in the Bhagavatam also he tells Uddhava, just peacefulness, self-control, austerity, cleanliness, satisfaction of the mind, tolerance, straightforwardness, devotion to Krishna, mercy, truthfulness, and so on, are the natural qualities of whom? What are these the qualities of?
Brahmanas.
Brahmanas. Yes, Prabhu, thank you. And then he describes the qualities of Kshatriya. So you may recall the verse 43 from 18th chapter Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Shauryam Tejo, Dhiti Daksha, Yuddhe Chapi Apalayanam, Danam Ishwar Bhavascha, Shatrakam Subhavjam. So same thing he says here. Dynamic power, bodily strength, determination, heroism, tolerance, generosity, great endeavor, steadiness. And then he says, also devotion to Brahmanas and leadership are the natural qualities of the Kshatriyas. Right. Then he describes the Vaishyas. So what does he say in Bhagavad Gita? Text 43. Krishi Gorakshvanijam, Vaishyakam Subhavjam. Here he's saying faith in the Vedic civilization, dedication to charity, freedom from hypocrisy, service to the Brahmanas, same as Kshatriyas, and perpetually desiring to accumulate more money, the typical what you call Banya mentality, are the natural qualities of the Vaishyas. And then he describes Shudras. What does he say? Text 1843. Paricharyatmakam karma, Shuddha karma subhavja. So here he's saying service without duplicity to the Brahmins, to the cows, to demigods, and other worshipable personalities, and complete satisfaction with whatever income is obtained in such service are the natural qualities of Shudras. Then he said there are people who are outside the Varnashram system. They're in the lowest position, and their natural qualities are, believe it or not, dirtiness, dishonesty, thievery, faithlessness, useless quarrel, lust, anger, and hankering. Those are the nature of those in the lowest position outside the Varnashram system. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to repeat what I just said. And I'm going to ask you a question. Dirtiness, dishonesty, thievery, faithlessness, useless quarrel, lust, anger, and hankering. Do they sound like the qualities of most people in today's time?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Then you are saying, and I want to make sure I get this right. You're saying that these are the qualities of everyday people in the age of Kali.
Yep.
This is
Yes.
describing most of the people we know.
Yes.
Most of the people in this age.
Yeah, I'm talking about this age. Yes, Prabhuji, Kali Yuga. So we are describing our friends, and those friends are describing us same way, right? So I mean, when I read that, I had a little bit of a shock, but then I said, no, so much truth in there, so much truth in there. So yeah, and that's why there's a very famous verse that says, "Kalo Shuddha Sambhava." Have you heard that? In the age of Kali, everybody is born Shudra, but this is below Shudra. So very interesting. Anyway, and then Krishna says that regardless of which Varna people belong to, everybody's duty, simply from being a member of the society, human society, is not a duty, not qualities, just to be very clear. The duty of every member of human society is non-violence, truthfulness, honesty, desire for happiness and welfare of all others, and freedom from lust, anger, and greed. So I'm going to pause one more time. These are the qualities of all all members of a human society. Those of us who are humans, look like humans, and don't have that. We don't have non-violence quality. We don't have truthfulness. We don't have honesty. We're always looking for happiness. And we don't want desire for we don't want welfare of other people. And we have lust, anger, and greed. That means Krishna is saying we are on a platform lower than human beings. These are very harsh statements, but this is coming from Krishna. I'm not saying it. Okay. So again, something just, for us to think about, like, where are we? What platform are we at? And look at, potentially considering change of behavior, change of nature, or at the very least becoming conscious of our lack of good qualities. Anyway, so then Krishna moves on and he says there are 3 Varnas who are considered the higher order and are qualified to accept second birth. What does second birth mean?
Initiation, take initiation.
But initiation does not mean Hari now. The other one, the Brahminical initiation. And it's the sacred thread ceremony. This is referring to that. He says, and as you know, in the Brahmin community, even today, a child, when touch 8 or 9, they get the second thread, the sacred thread, I mean. They have the second birth ceremony. So, Krishna is saying after receiving the sacred thread initiation, the boy should go and live in a Gurukul. Gurukul is the home of a spiritual master, as you know. And with a peaceful mind, the student or the brahmachari should become completely absorbed in the study of the scriptures. He should keep matted hair. He's forbidden to wash his teeth. He should not prepare a nice seat for himself. Should not talk when bathing or evacuating. Should not cut his hair or nails. Nor should he at any time pass semen. Must regularly perform worship at 3 junctions of the day, which are, what are the 3 junctions of the day? Anyone?
Morning, evening, and afternoon.
Morning, noon, and evening, yes. And must render devotional service to his spiritual master in a non-envious manner. The brahmachari must offer the guru whatever food and other things he obtains by begging, and accept for his maintenance whatever remnants of prasadam he is given. He should render menial service to the spiritual master by things like massaging his feet, worshipping him, and he should avoid all types of self-gratification. and strictly maintain vow of celibacy. He should worship the Lord with his mind, body, and words. In the form of Paramatma or the deity, which is not done in Satya. Okay. For brahmacharis, seeing or touching women and conversations or sports in the company of women is absolutely disallowed. Then he talks about water. He said cleanliness and ritual purification by water, which is the inside and the outside, should be observed by members of all the spiritual orders of society. It doesn't matter whether you are sannyasi, vanaprastha, grihastha, brahmachari, you should do those things. And always remember that the Supreme Lord is residing within the heart of every living entity as the Paramatma or Supreme Soul, Super Soul. Then, after finishing the studies of the Vedas, if a brahmachari is a Brahmin who has material desires, he may take permission from the spiritual master and enter grihastha ashram. Otherwise, if that brahmachari has no material desires, he can move directly to vanaprastha or sannyasi stage order. Changing of the order is allowed, but it should be done in a proper manner, and you can not go back. What that means is that you can move from brahmachari to grihastha, grihastha to vanaprastha sannyasi, but you cannot move back from sannyasi to grihastha. That's not allowed. If a brahmachari wants to enter the household, the grihastha ashram, he should accept a wife who's of the same social class, who's not objectionable, and who's somewhat younger in age than him. Now, sometimes it is allowed to marry a girl of lower caste. So, for example, a Brahmin can marry a Kshatriya girl, a Kshatriya can marry a Vaishya girl. But if it happens the other way, it's called Vilom Vivah, which means it's against the rules. Although we know examples where it has happened. Okay. Once you've taken the second initiation or second thread initiation, you're obliged to worship the Lord, study the Vedas, and give in charity. So this is after the initiation. If you're a Brahmin, it is your privilege to accept charity, teach the Vedas to other people, and perform fire sacrifice for other people. So actually, there's a very famous verse in one of the Upanishads, I forget which one. It says, Shat Karma Nipuno. So there's 4 activities of a Brahmin. 3 of them are being mentioned here: accept charity, teach others, and perform fire sacrifice for others. The other 3 are give charity. So accept charity, give charity. That's 2. Teach others and study. That's 2 more. Perform sacrifice for others and for yourself. Those are the 6 activities of a Brahmin. Now, a Brahmin should only perform his own activity, like Brahminical activities. But if he feels that his consciousness has been contaminated, he can sustain himself by collecting grains from the field. But if he finds that he's still too poor then out of necessity, he may accept the business of a Kshatriya or even a Vaishya, but should never take the occupation of a Shudra. Okay, so you can jump 1 or 2 down, but not 3 down. Similarly, a Kshatriya in a similar situation of poverty, whatever, he can take the occupation of a Vaishya, and Vaishya can take the occupation of Shudra. But this is for emergency only. Once the emergency is passed, it is not befitting any one of those 3 to continue to earn their living by the lower occupation. In the age of Kali, everybody is acting like a Shudra and accepting their or maintaining themselves by earning a living as a Shudra. Remember, Shudra means working for somebody else. As soon as you start working for somebody else, you are a Shudra. Now, a Brahmin who understands his duty, he rejects all material desires which he considers insignificant and always engages himself in the service of the Vaishnavas, and therefore is always under the protection of the Lord. Grihastha, on the other hand, should study the Vedas, the scriptures, every day and maintain his dependence with the money he has earned through some honest occupation in an honest manner. As far as possible, he should worship the Lord through, ritual sacrifices and remain unattached to the material life and become fixed in devotional service. If he has managed to do that, which is unattached to material life and fixed in devotion, he may go to the order of Vanprastha, where he would be able to fully engage in the Lord's worship, because he'd be no longer responsible for earning money, earning a livelihood, I should say. If the person has a grown-up son, he may directly go to sannyas order. But as a Vanprastha, he should take his wife with him. But this is for people who are unattached to material life. But people who are too lusty, who have no proper discrimination, who are extremely attached to their wealth and their possessions and their household, they remain perpetually in anxiety about the welfare of their family members, and they're basically doomed to take their next birth in a lower species of life, not human being. Okay, enough said. I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions or comments that you would like to ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Just one question. A lot of things are mentioned here. Too difficult to follow. Like hygienic, it says that body must be clean, but again, teeth cleaning, you should not brush your teeth and those.
No. So this is for brahmachari living in a Gurukul.
But them also, the kind of restriction. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But others should follow the rules of cleanliness.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Some things are actually in one of the chapters we'll talk about how there's some contradiction in the Vedas. So we'll talk about that actually. Anybody else? Was it too confusing? Because I can go back, or you can ask me questions for clarification. I included all these details because I thought they were very important for us to know. But if it's confusing, then ask questions.
So, Guruji, another question comes. These Varnashram started in Treta Yuga, right?
Correct.
Started. So, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and they maybe in those days they may be more relevant. But as we discussed, Kali Yuga, those may not be applicable, right?
No, they're still applicable.
Okay.
Remember what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita 4:13. Chatul Varnyam Maya Shrishta Guna Karma Bhagsha. So you still have guna, you still have karma. So society is divided. The problem is society divided inappropriately by birth. That's why instead of Varnashram, you have caste system. Caste system is wrong. One system is proper. Because everybody has qualities. Either in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance.
Yeah, so that brings Prabhuji another question, like suppose the Dwapar Yuga, for example, leave Treta Yuga. So a son born into Brahmana family, then how to know that that person goes to Gurukul, he's in Brahmana, Kshatriya born, because it's very difficult to understand the qualities of the person, the boy.
No,
right?
the qualities of persons are clear right from the age of 2 or 3.
Okay.
Right? I mean, you can tell a boy, a girl, what's their quality like, what mode of material nature are they coming from. That's very clear. But at the same time, the recommendation is that everybody should go to Gurukul.
Yeah.
So going to Gurukul is not the issue. It's what you do after that.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks.
Right. Any other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Accept mine. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you. I wanted to ask you if you could clarify why you mentioned, and I apologize, I missed the beginning of the class.
It's okay.
Minutes, but could you clarify why the bodies, why are we created from different parts of the body? The Lord creates us from the different.
Yes. So what I was saying was, it's symbolic.
Okay.
So basically, for example, the Brahmins are supposed to be very intelligent. So they are appearing from the head of the Lord. Kshatriya are supposed to be very strong. So they are appearing from the arms of the Lord. It's all symbolic. Think of the Virat Roop of the Lord, and which part of the body of the Lord is represented by these. So similarly, Vaishyas, they are from the loins of the Lord, or stomach of the Lord, they say. And the Shudras, who are into hard work, the legs of the Lord. So it's just symbolical representation or manifestation. It's not literally like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Prabhuji,
Anyone else?
yeah, Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
The last sentence you mentioned that living beings or humans who remain perpetually in Grihastha and do not go to Vanaprastha, in the next life they will get a birth lower than human species, right?
No, so there was a condition. What I said was that those who are always in anxiety about their family members, they are attached to material things, lusting after things, they go to the lower level of the species.
And
not
then,
if you're proper grihastha. So remember Grihmedhi and grihastha.
Yes.
That's the
Now I
distinction.
remember.
Yeah.
So my question was, like, 99.9% people who don't know or who are in ignorance are leading Grihmedhi life.
Correct.
That means,
and they will go, yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, some will become elevated, but they will go down.
Yes.
Those who never chanted, for example.
Yes.
Right? Those who never bowed their head in front of the Lord. Those who never took darshan of the Lord deity. Right? Those who never associated with devotees. Those who never saw Tulsi Maharani. Those who are constantly blaspheming the Lord and the Vedas. I mean, that's like you said, it's 99% of the people. Yeah, they will. Yeah, that's true.
But Prabhuji, also that means, as Prabhu asked very nice question, that these people will not progress to the Vanaprastha ashram. Is that correct? Or they may
Yeah,
go
can you imagine somebody who's attached to women, attached to family, too busy making money? I mean, I have friends who won't even retire because they say, we have nothing else to do but work in our life. I mean, the moment we stop working, we'll die. And I'm not talking about one or two people, I'm talking about many people. This is why I always say, those of us who are involved with this ISKCON or devotional service are very lucky, very highly privileged people. But this is not majority. This is extremely, extreme minority. I mean, Krishna says 7.3, Manusya nam sahastreshu kaschit etati siddhaye. Itam api siddhanam kaschin me veti tatuta. After thousands and thousands and thousands, one achieves perfection. Out of thousands of those, hardly one knows me. So it means millions among millions and millions, there's one person who becomes an aspiring devotee. So yeah, it is very rare, Prabhu. It's very rare. We sometimes take it for granted because we are like our life rotates around the devotees. So we take a lot of things for granted, but it's not so.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure. Okay. If there are no other questions, then I'll move.
Prabhuji, you just
sorry,
mentioned that Shudras came symbolic, right? Shudras are, they are born from his feet. That means
legs.
From his legs, yeah. Sorry. So that means they are blessed actually, because even Ganga, when it touches Krishna's feet, it becomes more potent, So if they also come from Krishna's legs, they should be considered higher, in fact, right?
Well, so difference between leg and feet, first of all.
Okay.
Also, we're talking about basically remember the Virat Rup is mundane. Virat Rup is not spiritual, right? It's temporary, mundane form, right? So this is why it said, and I think I mentioned it, it says in Bhagavatam that the lower the part of the body that's manifesting this, the lower the qualities. So actually head is the highest. Then comes the arms, then comes the loins or stomach, and then come the legs. So it's not in the sense that you're thinking. It's in a different sense. It's a more mundane sense. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Sure. All right. Okay. So the Lord continues. Now he's going to talk about the duties of Vanprastha and Sannyasa orders. And, and talk about what are the religious practices which are appropriate for these two orders to achieve proper level of advancement. So he starts by talking about Vanprastha first. He says, when one goes to Vanprastha stage, if he has sons, he should leave his wife at home in the care of the sons. If he doesn't have sons to take care of the wife, then he should take the wife with him. And with a peaceful mind, spend the third quarter. So first quarter is first 25 years. Second quarter is 26 to 50. The third quarter is 51 through 75. And it's 76 to 100. So those are 4 quarters. And basically, I'm referring to Kali Yuga. Anyway, so that third quarter should be spent in the forest. A Vanprastha should accept whatever food is available in the forest, like the fruits, the roots that naturally grow in a forest. And sometimes, if available, take the grains, cook them in the fire, and sustain himself on that. His garment should not be, nice fine silk and all that. It should be more like tree bark, grass or leaves, or maybe skin of a deer. He should perform austerities such as not cut his hair or beard or nails. He should not even make any special attempt to remove dirt from the limbs. But that doesn't mean no bathing. Actually, you should bathe 3 times in cold water or whatever, regardless of the season, and sleep on the ground. So no fancy bed. And then this is very interesting. During the hot season, you should stand beneath the heat of the sun, with fires blazing all around him. During the rainy season, you stand in the rain. And during winter, he should submerge himself in cold water up to his neck. He's absolutely forbidden to clean his teeth. Now, I don't know why Lord Krishna doesn't want people to clean his teeth. Brahmachari, Vanprastha, I'm not sure, but it doesn't apply to any one of us. Please clean teeth. Don't misunderstand Krishna. He should store food that is collected, at one time to eat at another time. And worship the Supreme Lord. And maintain this sounds like a very severe austerity for the rest of his life of Vanprastha. If somebody can do that, Krishna said he will achieve the Taplok planet. Okay. Then he talks about sannyas. He said one should develop complete detachment from anything and everything, like residence on different planets, even up to Brahmalok, because the desire for this kind of, I guess the term I can use, material elevation, is coming from wanting to enjoy the fruits of our activity. And one should recognize that, look, this is not good for me. And therefore, understand that the desire to achieve the higher planets is only going to result in suffering at some point in time. And therefore, anybody who wants to take sannyas must be in the spirit of total renunciation. Otherwise, don't take sannyas. The process of accepting sannyas, it includes things like worshiping the Lord, from the heart, with feelings. Do the various fire sacrifices, not associate with women or even look at women. Consider the association with women worse than taking poison. And unless it's an emergency, don't wear anything more than a loincloth or some simple covering over the loincloth. Don't carry stuff except your danda, the staff, and the kamandal, the water pot. Give up any kind of violence to other living creatures. And worship the Lord with mind, body, and speech. Remain detached. Remain fixed on yourself, which is the soul, and the Lord, super soul, and travel alone to pure places like the mountains, the rivers, and the forest. And keeping himself engaged like that, remember the Lord. And try to live in a place that's not heavily populated. Don't go to more than 7 homes for begging alms. Choose those homes at random, not going back to the same house because they give you more. And avoid the house of people you know are either cursed or are fallen. Offer to the Lord whatever food you have collected with a pure heart, obviously, and take the Mahaprasadam after offering to the Lord. And this way, always be mindful that the hankering for sense gratification is only bondage or cause for bondage. And engaging whatever we see, the sense objects, that is, whatever we have, and our senses in the service of the Lord is the cause for liberation. If a sannyasi lacks the knowledge or the renunciation, or continues to be troubled by the 6 enemies. What are the 6 enemies of a person? This is the known as anarthas. What are the 6 anarthas? Anyone?
Lust, greed, yeah.
Go ahead.
So lust, greed,
Anger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lust, greed, anger, and
Investness or
illusion, yeah.
Illusion, yeah.
Illusion.
Ahankar.
Ego.
Yeah.
So basically madness. So you have lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and madness. Okay. And so if you are being troubled by those, or being troubled by your senses, and you still decide to accept the danda, the staff, to be able to tell the world you're sannyasi, and you use your sannyas ashram for your livelihood, which we know many people do, then the only result this person will achieve is the killing of his own soul. Okay, so very serious, very serious. And then Krishna describes above all these are Paramhansas. Paramhansas are very special in that they're not bound by any injunctions or prohibitions. Sometimes they're also known as Avadhuts. Like Lord Nityananda was known as Avadhut, was a Paramhansa. Bhaktisar Saraswati Maharaj was often called Paramhansa. Our Guru Maharaj, our Prabhupada is a Paramhansa. He's a devotee of the Supreme Lord, detached from any kind of sense gratification, and completely free from any desire, even liberation. No pride, no tendency to insult other people. And even though he may be very knowledgeable, he wanders about like a dull, ignorant person, even though he's most learned. Sometimes he talks like a fool, even though he's actually established in the sense of completely understanding the Vedas. He behaves in an unordered fashion, like against the injunctions. He tolerates the evil words of others, never shows any contempt for anybody. He's not an enemy of anyone. He doesn't get involved in useless arguments. He sees the Lord in all creatures, everything actually, and never shows contempt for anybody. He doesn't act as an enemy of anyone. He accepts whatever food he gets, whether it's good quality, bad quality, doesn't matter. Same thing for clothing and bedding, it doesn't matter. Just accepts whatever he gets without endeavor. He doesn't become particularly joyful when he gets nice food or anything nice, or nor does he become depressed. He does not find anything. So like he is sukta khe samay kritva, labha labho jaya jaya, right? He executes his prescribed duties willingly and carries out his duties, as I said, without any prohibitions, but very sincerely. He's not subject to any Vedic rules. When he obtains Paramhansa, when he obtains liberation, that's the type that's called sarshti, which is the equal opulence as the Lord. So then the Lord summarizes it. He says, for brahmachari, the primary duty is to, what's the primary duty of brahmachari? To serve the spiritual master. The primary duty of a grihastha is protection of living beings and performing fire sacrifices. For Vanaprastha, austerities, and for sannyasi is self-control and non-violence. Those people who are performing karmakanda section of the Vedas, they can attain heavenly planets, or they can go to Pitraloka, the planet of the forefathers, by simply performing the karmakanda activities. But if they become endowed with the devotion of the service of the Lord, then by the same activities, they can achieve the supreme stage of liberation. I'm going to stop again and see if there are any questions or comments or just confession of more confusion.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, bro, go ahead.
So as you explained, so Vanaprastha leads, as a hierarchical text to sannyasa, and above sannyasa is a Paramhamsa.
Correct.
Okay, so that is one. Second is, so the way we understand from Vanaprastha, one can get elevated Tapaloka. That means one can stop at that level. Previously, we used to understand 4 ashram. That means start Vanaprastha and then sannyasi. That's where you end logically. But looks like one may not go to the sannyasa. He can stop at
the point. The point was more like if he leaves his body. The point was if he leaves his body,
okay,
while still in the one stage, if he has achieved this, he'll go to Tapaloka.
He will go to Tapaloka. I see. And then sannyasi, he doesn't desire, as we understand that he doesn't desire to go in anywhere in material world, because he sees that, and these are the sannyasis. Eventually, they'll get liberated and go back to Godhead, kind of.
Yeah. So if they meet all the things that we were talking about,
yeah,
this total renunciation, not insulting anyone, being totally non-violent, on and on, then yes. But remember, we're not talking devotees here. We're talking about general.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay. How confusing is today's class? Because I always keep asking myself, should I include these details or should I skip them? That's why I keep asking you also. So again, please be frank, candid. If limited benefit only, I can skip similar chapters next time and stay with more interesting ones.
Now, Prabhuji, continue with what you are doing, because at least it gives a glimpse, to understand. Otherwise, by our own endeavor, we'll never understand and will not do that. So please continue.
Yeah. Also understand, you don't need to remember all the details.
Correct. Yes.
Like if you ask me 2 weeks from now, I will not remember all these details.
Yes, yes.
My retention is like 2 or 3 days. That's it. And then I start forgetting. Okay. So don't worry about it. It's not about memorizing things. It's about understanding the concept. So Radhavendra Prabhu, you're right. As long as we become familiar with the concept,
yeah,
and then the major, the big items, big ticket items, as they say, then we're fine.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Because the conversion between Krishna and Uddhava directly, these are not ordinary.
Correct.
So we have to see, and so there is some value to that. It's a clear-cut, direct message to us.
Oh no, there's a lot of value to that.
A lot of value
to that. But it's just that it's not easy to understand, and it is a little dry. It's not exactly we're talking Ras Leela. Let's just face it.
So, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Plus, we are gaining a lot, except a lot of it.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. That's good. Thank you. Okay. So now, this is Lord Krishna talking, right? So he has to come to the. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So in between, you just mentioned that, okay, can I understand that all these 4 stages are not applicable for devotees? or like I got confused.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me because it's a very important point. So we talk about, not tonight, but generally speaking, we talk about 3 levels. We talk about 3 levels of human beings, or 3 platforms. We talk about the animal platform, we talk about the human platform, and we talk about the Vaishnava platform. So what is animal platform? Animal platform is a person, a human being, who's simply interested in 4 things. Can you guess what those 4 things are? Eating,
Eating,
mating.
sleeping, mating, and defending.
Correct. So if a person is on that platform, then clearly he's on animal platform, because animals can do all those 4 things also. Actually, they can do it better than we can do, right? They can produce more children, they can sleep longer hours, they can eat more than we can ever eat, and they certainly can defend themselves better than we can. So when we are in animal platform, we are worse than animals, but that's the platform majority of the people are. Then we rise above the animal platform to human platform by following the principles of Varnashram Dharma. So all the prescribed duties of Varnashram that Krishna has talked about, they bring us to human level. Now he's going to talk about what's above human level, what's above Varnashram. He's going to talk about devotional service. So your question is very appropriate and very timely. And so, yes, Prabhu, Vaishnava level or devotee level is higher than human level, and that's why so few humans are able to do that. And we'll talk about what they do, what the duties are, and what the benefits are. So, Nankumar Prabhu, did I address your point?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Sure, you're welcome. Anybody else?
Prabhu, when we,
go ahead, Prabhu.
So when we say that all these qualities that we talked about generally don't apply to devotees.
No, I didn't say that. What I said was that devotees have higher qualities. Okay. Higher doesn't mean you don't have the lower qualities. No. Devotees also eat, sleep, mate, and defend.
Right.
Devotees also have the qualities of honesty, non-violence, and austerity, and all those kind of things. So it's not that they don't have, but they have more, and that's what makes them higher.
Okay. But they still have desires also, right?
That's because they're not pure devotees. So remember, we talked about sannyasis, we talked about paramhansas. Similarly, you have aspiring devotees, the sadhakas. Then you have raganuga bhaktas, you have bhav bhaktas, you have prem bhaktas. The different stages in devotional service also. So you are looking at those of us who are aspiring devotees, for sadhakas, which means we still have the material desires, we still have the hankerings, we still have the lamentation, we still have all the other bad qualities, that the anarthas, we still have all that. We're trying to get rid of them, right? Remember, it says ado shraddha tato sadhu sang artha bhajan kriya syat artha nivritti. So it comes after bhajan kriya. So as we do more and more bhajan kriya, the artha nivritti will happen and will become purer and purer. Chaturdarpan marjana means the same thing. We still have very dirty consciousness, but as we chant more and more, as we start chanting more offenselessly, as we develop the attitude of Pranada Visuni Chain, Torori Vasaishnana, Amani Namandin, Kirtiniya Sadari, the Chaturdarpan margin will happen and become pure. We're not pure yet. Okay, but at least we have started on the journey. So stay on the journey, one day we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Anybody else? Okay, all right, so then we'll keep going. Oh, sorry, somebody's question? Okay. If no questions, then I'll move on. Okay, so now Krishna is talking about pure devotional service. And he mentions Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And he says they can be described in terms of the presence of different good and bad qualities. And so what happened was, after hearing the Lord, Uddhava said, "My dear Lord Krishna, and this is what I think Ashok Krishna Prabhu was talking about before, or was it Radha Vinod Prabhu? I forget, one of you. That the Vedic literatures consist of positive and negative injunctions. They focus on the good and bad qualities of work, and they represent your Krishna's order. But they contain the duality, good, bad, and positive, negative, and all those kind of things. So they contain the outlook of duality, but at the same time, they reject the duality. So thus said, my Lord, please help me understand, why do the scriptures contain conflicting ideas, and how can we reconcile those conflicting ideas? Because neither this or that can be wrong, neither this or that can be bad, because they're in the Vedas. So that means there must be some way of reconciling. So he says, please explain. So then Lord Krishna gets into the Karma Kanda and Gyan Kanda and all those kind of things, all Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. He says, these three processes facilitate the attainment of liberation. They're for different type of people, though. He says, Karma Yoga is for people who are not detached yet, who are full of desires, material desires. On the other hand, Jnana Yoga is for those people who have detached themselves from the fruits of their activities and have given up material endeavors. But Bhakti Yoga is for those people who have taken to the principle of Yukta Vairagya, or appropriate renunciation. So can somebody explain to me what Yukta Vairagya is? Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
So, is it somebody who is living in the material world among grahasthas and still practicing all the principles of the Shastras and not being attached?
Okay, I mean, that's kind of true. However, I was looking for a definition as given by Rupa Goswami.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Go ahead, Prabhuji, finish it.
Prabhuji, to my understanding, as per the Goswamis, I understood like Yukta Viragya, who is internally detached from all material things and attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes, Prabhu, correct. There's a verse in the Nectar of Devotion. Anybody knows that? I'll give you the first line. Anasakta Sivishyan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anasakta Yataram Upayunjita.
Yeah, Yatharam Upayunjita.
Yeah. You engage your senses in the service of the senses. That is the ultimate meaning.
No, actually, no, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Rishikesh Sevanam Bhakti Uchita. That's the definition of bhakti. That's not Yukta Vairagya.
Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe
Yeah.
Yukta Vairagya. Yeah,
correct. So, Anasakta Sivishya, being engaged in all the material activities, but not becoming attached to them, and using the material things or people only to the extent necessary. Not being attached to anything and seeing everything in relationship to Krishna is called Yukta Vairagya. Right? So this is what we need to do. We don't need to run away from home. We don't need to run away from, now we're talking about devotees. We don't need to run away from a city. We don't need to run away from population. We don't even need to run away from our money, our property. Just not be attached to them. Use them as necessary and only as necessary. seeing everything in relationship to Krishna or related to Krishna, as related to Krishna. It's called Yukta Vairagya. Okay? So, he's saying devotees are Bhakti Yoga is for devotees who are in Yukta Vairagya mode. And then he adds that as long as one has not become uninterested in enjoying the fruits of their work, or as long as one's faith in the topics of discussion of the Lord is not there, they are not become a devotee yet. So let me rephrase what I said. A devotee becomes uninterested in enjoying the results of their work, and they have total, complete faith in the topics of discussion of the Lord. And until and unless that has happened, in other words, if one has not become uninterested in material results of their work, if one does not have faith in the topics of discussion, then Krishna says, continue to do Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is for you. Do you prescribe duty according to your Karma Yoga, which is the ritualistic activities. But if you are a sannyasi or if you're a devotee, you don't need to carry those ritualistic duties. Now, is that clear or is it confusing again? Maybe the way I said it became confusing. He's trying to explain the difference between Karma Yogi and devotee. He's saying basically Karma Yogi is one who still wants the material results. Sorry, Karma Yogi is for a person who still wants the results of material, his work, who still doesn't have a lot of faith in the topics of discussion of Krishna. He should continue with his Karma Yoga. Okay? And continue the ritualistic duties. Hope that's clear. Then he says, persons who follow their own duty and abandon what is forbidden and are free from greed, don't have any unhealthy characteristics, they either become jnanis, or if they're fortunate, they become devotees. Fortunate in the sense that they get devotee association, they become devotees. If they don't get it, they become jnanis. So let me repeat again. Those people who are doing their duty, who are able to abandon anything that's forbidden for them, they're free from greed and any other unhealthy characteristic. They become jnanis if they don't get devotee association, and they become devotees if they get devotee association. So, and obviously, this knowledge of this devotion can be achieved in human form of life, not in animal form of life. And human form of life is so desirable that even the demigods desire that, especially in the age of Kali. Unfortunately, the human body is short-lived. Therefore, a person or intelligent person, I should say, should strive for liberation before death comes. Whether it's through knowledge or through devotion or both. And then he gives a very wonderful verse that is very famous. He says, human body is like a boat. Guru is the boatman. Mercy of the Lord is the, anybody knows?
Wind.
Wind, or favorable wind.
Yeah.
favorable breeze. And therefore, in a human body, you can cross the ocean of material world, provided you have a guru whom you allow to row the boat, and you get the mercy of the Lord and get a favorable wind or the breeze that takes your boat to the right direction. So he says that a person has obtained this rare boat in the form of human body, but does not want to cross over the ocean of material existence. He is a killer of the soul. And he says, I recognize the mind is fickle, but one should not allow it to act whatever it wants. In other words, do not become indifferent to your mind. Try to keep it under control. Try to conquer the senses. Use your intelligence to develop the qualities of goodness and bring the mind under control. Otherwise, you're looking at, a wasted human life or human birth. And he says, until you make the mind stable and control, continue to meditate. And he talks about depending upon who you are and different things. But first he talks about meditating upon the process of creation. And again, I don't have time today to get the details, but if you recall, the creation happens from subtle to gross. So subtle items of creation are false ego, mind, intelligence, and the 7 layers of earth, 5 layers of ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Then to the gross elements of earth, water, air, and fire, and ether. So he says, meditate upon that. And then meditate upon the destruction of the material world in the reverse order, from gross to subtle. He says, give up the idea that you are this body by developing a sense of detachment and renunciation, and by constantly studying the instruction of your spiritual master. Perform yoga like, yam, niyam, etc. that we talked about, and cultivate transcendental knowledge and worship and meditate upon the Lord. Remember the Paramatma feature and the other Bhagwan feature of the Lord. By doing that, you will develop a number of virtues that we'll talk about in a second, which are important to become devotees. First virtue is, actually virtue means that being steadfast in whatever the object of whatever platform we are on. So for example, by developing the desire to reject any material things that we may have accumulated over the lifetime, and by pursuing Vedic injunctions of what is good, what is bad, we are able to reduce our inauspiciousness, I should say. But if we become devotee, then all perfections are automatically achieved. You don't have to go through karma yoga, jnana yoga, etc. Anyone who can render service to the Lord by constant devotional service will be able to control his mind, be able to fix his mind on the Lord, and thus give up all the desires for self-gratification, because they will be destroyed to the root. That reminded me of a verse from Bhagavatam 6th Canto, 1st chapter. Let me see. Kechit Kevalia Bhakta, Kechit Kevalia Bhakta, Vasudeva Parayana, Dhunvanti Agam Karsnena, Niharamiv Bhaskara. This is Shukdev Goswami telling Parikshit after he objected to the effectiveness of acts of repentance. He said, pure devotional service will destroy your sinful reactions from the root. So there'll be no trace of them. They're left, and you'll never develop desires for those things by performance of pure devotional service. So Krishna is saying basically the same thing. And he says, when that happens, we will directly perceive the presence of the Lord, and we'll lose all interest in any kind of material activity. And that's why Krishna explains that devotees don't consider knowledge or renunciation as the means for achieving the Lord. They know, I don't need any knowledge, I don't need renunciation. Those are just byproducts of what I'm doing. I know simply from performance of devotional service, I'll get my Lord in my heart. And when the Lord is in the heart, there's no material desire there. The person becomes totally uninterested in anything material, and uninterested in any ritualistic activities. And when they become pure, the ritualistic injunctions and prohibitions, etc., don't apply. They become pure devotees, which is same as pure Paramhansas. As we're talking about, rules don't apply. You can feed the Lord with your own hands without chanting any mantras. You can jump on the shoulder of the Lord. You can play with the Lord. You can fight with the Lord. All those simply by becoming pure devotee. So I'm going to stop here. See if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah, Prabhuji, a lot of a heavy at the last few minutes, going through Jnani. As I was just thinking, Jnani is like who is not a desire. Basically, the one who doesn't have a desire is no karma. And then taking to Ashtanga Yoga, because again, the meditations or all those things came, subtle part, you mentioned how the creation, subtle part, focusing, you get some different siddhis and all those things. And then it terminates into bhakti, right? So a lot of things were going very fast through that process. So yeah, that's what I was trying to get the differentiation, Prabhuji. Where the Jnana stops and the Ashtanga Yoga begins, and Ashtanga stops and suddenly get into bhakti.
Yeah. So remember the yoga ladder?
Yeah.
When we did the Bhagavad Gita classes, we talked about yoga ladder. So in very simple way, the last 20 minutes, I can summarize in 1 minute. Basically, Lord Krishna is saying, for those of us who still have material desires, who still want to enjoy the results of our activities, Karma Yoga is recommended. Karma Yoga is nothing but performance of ritualistic activities for the purpose of getting pious results. A Karma Yogi may offer the results of his activities to the Lord, but does not stop acting in a material way. That's a Karma Yogi. So I'm going to pause again and see if there's anybody in this class who does not understand this part. Let's take one part at a time. Does everyone understand what a Karma Yogi is? And why is one a Karma Yogi? So silence means everybody saying yes. Please, 2 people say, other than Radha Vinod Prabhu. 2 people say, yes, I understand what Karma Yogi is.
There could be different levels of Karma Yogis too.
Like what?
Like if somebody is doing karma only for a sense gratification, and the other person is, like you have just said, he's doing a Karma Yoga just and does the offer the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like giving donations and all that to the right place, and so there could be different levels of karma yogi.
No, Prabhu. So the first one is a karmi, not karma yogi.
Okay.
The first one, as you described, is a karmi.
Okay. Okay.
Not karma yogi.
Okay.
Second one you described is karma yogi.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, anybody else? So I still need two people to say, yes, we understood karma yoga, Rupa Anugal. Go forward.
Yeah, Prabhuji, yeah, karma yoga, because we
No,
offer.
Prabhu, I say other than Radha Vinod Prabhu.
Okay.
I need, otherwise, it means nobody understood.
It is
Karma
much.
yoga means when you do the karmas and the fruits for yourself, expecting for yourself.
That's a karmi.
Karma. And karma yogi is when you do the karmas and don't expect the fruits for yourself and you give to Lord.
Correct. Correct.
So I understood.
Okay, very good. So that's one person.
Yes, Prabhu, the same thing.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Okay, then I can move forward. But these people don't understand something. That is, they're still in the material world and they'll keep coming back to the material world. They don't understand that material world is full of miseries and it's not a good idea to keep coming back. Then it comes to Jnana yogis or Jnanis who say, we understand. We understand that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. We understand that material world is full of miseries. It will always be full of miseries. We're sick and tired of being miserable. So we want to get out of this material world, but with the desire to cease the miseries. So they become jnanis. They start developing knowledge and speculation by which they leave the material world and merge in the Brahman effulgence. Above them are the yogis who say, well, no, there's something beyond the Brahman effulgence. It's called super soul. They meditate upon the super soul. They achieve one or all of the 8 mystic perfections we talked about in the last class. But their ultimate goal is also Brahman effulgence. Then some of them say, no, wait a minute. There's got to be something more. This is Bhagwan feature, and our nature is eternal servants of the Lord, so we must serve him. So they become devotees. And their main purpose in life becomes to serve the Lord for the pleasure of the Lord. And that's why we talked about Yukta Vairagya, where they're not saying I got to leave this material world. They're not saying that I can't have a job. They're not saying I cannot have a family. They're not saying that we won't have any material possessions. But they're saying we'll engage everything in the service of Krishna for the pleasure of Krishna. They are the devotees. So that's 20 minutes summarized in 1 minute. If you can remember that much, you're fine.
And devotees think everything belongs to Krishna also.
Everything belongs to Krishna, yes. Krishna gives us and we use it for Krishna. That's how the cycle is completed.
Yeah, nice, Prabhuji. So you brought it to Yukta Vairagya, use everything that is available in the service of Krishna. So that is the differentiation I was looking. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, all right. If none, then we'll stop. And I want to thank everyone for your patience. And
Prabhuji,
again,
how many chapters we have done?
we did today chapter 20.
Okay.
So the 11th canto, chapter 20 we finished.
What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to get?
Sorry, Prabhu?
We're supposed to get from 17. You're supposed to cover from 17 to 20. So everything is covered.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you. So we'll start chapter 21 next week. And we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.